Nintendo has established that they have an awesome lineup of games for the holiday season, but they're not telling anyone what it is. What's going on?
I want to know, hot take!
Nintendo has consistently stated that they have games that are on the horizon for the holiday season during investor calls and interviews, but honestly, they keep telling everybody that they're just not ready to announce these things yet, which is a little bit worrying on a couple of factors.
It's weird because we're in the summer right now, and if you're going to be releasing a game in a few months, a trailer here or there, or a little more information.
It's marketing. You typically want to build hype. You want to tell people about it. If you want a movie to be successful, right, you actually have trailers that go in front of other movies, and you know, they get announced months in advance, years in advance.
We do have to take into consideration that Nintendo does tend to have a direct sometime in September or October, so we could see some cool titles pop up there.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure we will.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm not like when Nintendo says they have games, I believe they have games.
Yeah.
That is how it works. But you did some research, which is pretty interesting, because you decided to go back and go, okay, Nintendo in the past with other holiday releases, what did they actually release with their systems? Can we take a look at the past and kind of blend it in with the modern day to see what we're looking at?
Right, so let's talk about the Switch first, because we do know from, you know, of course we don't have that September Direct yet, but we do know what has been announced between this point and Christmas for this year, and there is an ample amount of games. I'm not going to read off every game, just some of the bigger titles. So Octopath Traveler's coming out very soon. Captain Toad, Sonic Mania Plus is coming out, Overcooked 2, Okami HD, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, that's the redone 3DS game, FIFA 19, Super Mario Party, Pokemon Let's Go, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and at some point during the summer, we should have the Dark Souls Remastered. That was pushed back.
So there's a number of games there that are pretty interesting by themselves. There's a couple of re-releases and games that are coming to the system way later than they've released on other systems. However, with that being said, there's a couple exclusives there, but I firmly believe that their holiday is really all about two games specifically.
Yeah, so, okay, I think there's three bigger Nintendo games, but yes, there's two like, huge games. They should be huge.
I know exactly the first one we're going to bring up right away, so let's talk about it.
So Super Mario Party is the one, like,
It's a good game, right? I mean, I hope it's a good game. What we've seen so far is that Super Mario Party is moving back to the original.
Yeah, because we could say it was a good series more towards the beginning.
Yeah.
Because, the series has stumbled a bit here or there, and it's hard to say that because these are, like, mini-game collections in a board game format. So, like, some games are really great sometimes, and other times they're not. And then sometimes the board games are great themselves.
I've always had fun with them. I always think they're fun to play. Typically, I want it to be online so I can play with all my friends no matter where we are. And you know what? The idea of taking Super Mario Party on the go and playing with other people literally on the table like it's a board game, great idea,
and we've spoken about this before. The Switch offers so many, like, playing abilities. You can take off your Joy-Con and do whatever. Huck it in the air, throw your screen here or there, and, like, there's so many ways that you can kind of configure the thing to make interesting games. So
my only hope, though, honestly, is that I can play 4-player mode easily with people and not having to buy a second Switch, because that like at that point we're playing Monopoly. Okay,
when you are,
like, we're not going to spend all that money to get another Switch just to play that.
When you are dealing with different controller configurations as well, it's like, oh, okay, so, like, does everyone get one Joy-Con, and then, like, maybe another game you need two Joy-Con for,
or do you get a Pro controller? It gets complex,
it gets a little weird,
right?
But it is a game to be excited about. It's probably not going to sell as well as these other two games. Okay.
Pokemon Let's Go, both games, all right? Now, here's the interesting thing. There's a little bit more of a conversation to be had about this, but just on the top, what we're going to basically say here is that this game is very important for Nintendo. It needs to be successful.
Yes.
This isn't a joke. This isn't like some, oh, you have no idea. If it's not successful, this is going to hurt Nintendo in ways that is just going to be unquestionably bad for them. Basically, how it works is that this new game, we don't care that it's in the Kanto region or anything like that.
It is in the Kanto region.
But it is a Pokemon game that's coming out on the Switch for the very first time. Because of how successful Pokemon Go was on mobile, Nintendo has to reach some amount of success and pull some of those gamers from their mobile phones onto the Switch. If they can't establish a way to do that with the Go franchise, then they're actually going to hurt their relationship with investors, because investors won't believe they can bring the same amount of pull to the Switch as they could have with bringing new Pokemon games to mobile phones.
And it's going to be a bit of an effort, I think, because Pokemon Go, as we've discussed, it's a free download to get in. And then when you think about transitioning from that cell phone experience to the console, you got to buy a Switch, and then you got to buy this new game software.
And then on top of that, if you want to play the features that are online, you have to get your Pokemon online, or sorry, your Nintendo Online account, which is something you do not have to pay for when you're playing the game for free on your mobile phone. So there's a lot of issues here that may work against Nintendo, but if they manage to break in and get those sales, it's going to be huge for them.
This does really feel kind of like a Hail Mary pass, where it's like, well, Pokemon Go is such a huge thing. Even to this day, Pokemon Go is doing amazingly, right? I'd said over 3/4 of a billion downloads for Pokemon Go. That's huge. If they can just snag even a little bit of that and bring that into the Switch, more users buying Switches, not only buying Pokemon Let's Go software, but possibly buying other software as well.
And there's been that constant argument that Nintendo has been recycling ideas and engines and stuff like that from previous games and bringing them forward. And with Pokemon Let's Go, again, we have the Pokemon Go franchise being recycled into something for the Switch, which the Switch was definitely not designed to utilize GPS or anything like that. So they're basically making a mixture of what was an older Pokemon game and mixing it with the newer Let's Go franchise. So we don't know how this is going to play out. This is going to be really weird. There is every chance that this is going to be very successful, but if it isn't, there's going to be some troubled waters ahead. However, we're saying this game second because we believe the third game is going to have the most impact, specifically because it is coming out in December.
Yes, it's going to be huge.
Yeah, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yes.
Now, this game is obviously one game that everyone's looking forward to, and it does have that same argument again with the idea of recycled content, which this is taking older stuff from the older games, moving it forward, but they are remastering it. It's not a port of the same games from the past, right? They've taken a lot of different chances here and done a lot of things. For instance, there are characters in this game that are going to be able to face off against each other that have never been able to do that in previous entries, which means they have to rebalance things, rework things. It's not a simple port. That being said, though, we don't know how successful this is going to be. Are they going to be able to get those huge gamers that love Melee forward? Are they going to be able to get the gamers that really liked it on the 3DS moving forward as well, too?
So here's what I'm thinking. Smash was it was a success on the Wii U, but mild. On the 3DS, it was larger. It was
huge, yes.
Right? We do not have a 3DS Smash game coming out at the same time as Ultimate, and I do feel like a lot of the purchases that would have been made on a 3DS system should carry over to a Switch, unless people are just sitting on it and waiting to pick up a Switch later.
From what I remember, too, I believe the 3DS version of Smash was actually released earlier than the one that was on the Wii U, which was the stupidest thing they could have possibly done. At the time, they were struggling with the Wii U, and Nintendo would have made a heck of a lot of money if all they did was say, hey, you buy Super Smash Bros. On the 3DS, you get a free copy for the Wii U. Would have injected sales into the system, would have been a big deal, but they chose not to do that, and you know what, Nintendo? Smart. But when it comes to the Switch, they're not doing that. You now have one version of the game that you want to get, and it's going to be on the Switch, and that's it.
Right. You want to play Smash, you have to own this console. So I'm hoping for them that it does produce more hardware sales.
Again, what's really interesting here is very much like Pokemon Let's Go, it's a little bit of a risk because we do believe it's going to sell, but what they've done is they've essentially said, okay, we're hoping this one sells better than the Wii U version, but if it sells under the 3DS version, that's going to scare investors. Right now, we're in this really troubling situation where investors are really dictating the course of the company because they are pulling their money away from the company. They're not giving them stuff. There's been a lot of arguments over this due to the recent video we did talking about their recent stock drop. And like I said before, stocks are complex, but investors aren't stupid. This isn't some random group of people who don't care about money. They basically see that there isn't a future for a specific product line, and they're afraid of that. So that's why they're kind of pulling their money away. Nintendo needs to give them influence and go, look, we actually have a plan. But when the investors asked them point blank if they had plans for the future for the holiday season, all they said was, we're not ready to talk about that yet.
They said yes, but we're not telling, basically.
So the investors pulled their money out. That's what happens. That's literally how it works. If you were to try and pre-order something and somebody were to tell you, well, I'm not going to tell you what that thing is yet, then you would take your money back because you wouldn't know what you're pre-ordering. Same idea with investors. They need a kind of like an idea of what's coming out on the horizon to really kind of make sure their money's going to be safe. But with that in mind, Nintendo did, Adam did do a lot of research. I almost called you Nintendo there. Do you want to change your name to Nintendo?
Can I be Nintendo Adam?
Nintendo Adam. Yeah. Nintendo Adam sat down. Yeah, change your Twitter name now. Nintendo Adam sat down to basically look at what was in the past and what they actually gave on.
I thought it'd be fun because we're looking at the holiday releases for this year coming up. First, we're going to talk about the Wii U, and I got to tell you that a couple of the Nintendo consoles were first released in November, so we want to look at the first two Christmases, because we're in the second Christmas of Switch, so I want to look at the second Christmas for all these consoles. The Wii U was released in November, so technically its first Christmas was a very small window,
just a
right?
bit.
So do you want to do the first, 24 months?
That makes the most sense to me.
Okay,
yeah.
So that's what we'll do. So in 2014, Christmas, between July and Christmas, on the Wii U, Hyrule Warriors was one of the big titles to come out. Bayonetta 2.
Huge fan favorite.
Yeah. Super Smash for Wii.
Okay.
And then Captain Toad.
Oh, Super Smash for Wii U?
For Wii U. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Captain Toad.
Yeah. Okay, so that's interesting because we're actually getting Captain Toad again. We're getting a Smash Brothers game, and boy, okay, so obviously the 2014 Christmas season wasn't the best out there. I mean, they had Smash Brothers, but it didn't help the Wii U.
I have the 2013 information. It wasn't that much better either, but it was the Wii U. So.
You know, the Wii U had a struggle at the very beginning, and there was a lot of games on the platform, and I still argue it has one of the best first-party libraries ever from a video game console of that generation, but unfortunately, it didn't impress consumers.
Yeah.
Seemingly, Switch is doing kind of something similar, but it's doing better because it's a system that people can take with them. That really seems to be the driving force. It seems to be the only factor that really changes things up.
Okay.
All right.
Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, let's keep going.
So again, these games that I'm talking about, these are just bigger Nintendo games on the console. They're not necessarily first-party games, but they're games that we kind of look at and we say like, okay, those are like big games for the console, or they were big games for the console. Okay, so next is the Wii. Again, it had a November release, so it's kind of wonky there, but we'll do around 24 months. So in 2009, the Christmas season, Metroid Prime Trilogy was coming out. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, which some people think is really great. Some people don't. I always make that gesture.
It's
Okay, and then New Super Mario for Wii.
Okay.
Those were like the three bigger games.
Now we know the Wii U struggled, but the Wii, there's an interesting thing within its second year. The second year was when people actually could buy Wiis. Wiis were being sold out all over the place and no one could really find them, but everybody wanted them, not for any of the games they're releasing, just for Wii Sports. It's a very interesting system because it's not one that you typically associate with a library that people actually wanted to get, and it's one of the reasons why Wii games to this day are still really cheap to get because it was just overblown and people didn't seem to care after a while.
Also of note, while I was doing my research, just looking at all the games being released, gosh, man, it's a wall.
Yeah,
it's a wall. A lot of people say that the Wii had a bit of shovelware on it.
A bit?
Oh
a
my
bit?
gosh!
Oh, yeah.
I was scrolling and scrolling. I got three.
My God.
There's other titles as well.
Did you ever go to a GameStop and just look at the wall that they had on Wii games? It was like all these things. Oh,
I hug it every time.
So many. And you know what was really bad? There were so many Wii games that were released that had no reason to be released on Wii, and they were so poorly made. Versions of games available on other platforms that were downgraded for the Wii. The Wii was a shovelware of trash. Like, it was just so much bad content. But what was good there was really, really, really good. Unfortunately, though, no one really bought it for that. The people that bought them are people that aren't watching the show. There are folks that were like grandparents or parents, maybe people that was their first video game system, and for many it was just a sports machine. That was it.
I bought it for Simon's Accounting 2006.
I would really
I don't think that's a real game.
No.
It could be though. Who knows? There's a long list.
You know what? On the Wii, could actually be a real game.
Okay. So again, I'm shrinking these lists a little bit. I'm going with the really big games, so I don't want you to be offended if there were some other games that came out where you're like, well, dude, you're not mentioning these other guys. There are other games, but these are kind of the bigger sort of like, oh, we can play these on the Nintendo Wii. Like, these are big Wii games. Okay, so we did Wii. We're going to go to GameCube, all right? The second Christmas for GameCube. This is the good one.
Yeah.
This is the pretty cool one.
This is going to hurt.
It's not like, it's just a few games, but it's cool. Super Mario Sunshine.
That's amazing.
Animal Crossing.
Fantastic.
Star Fox Adventures?
People like it.
Mario Party 4.
That's a good one.
Metroid Prime.
See, that's a really good one.
That's a good Christmas.
That's a great Christmas, and it didn't sell the GameCube. That's the unfortunate part, right? The GameCube isn't a successful system. It's one that bombed as well, right?
Yeah.
The Wii U and the GameCube are not looked as systems that have actually done well over time compared to the competitors on the scene at the time that were actually selling far more.
And there's a big difference between selling hardware and selling software. So the Wii did sell well. Software-wise, not so much.
It's the Wii kept selling well for a couple years until one year everyone stopped buying it and the system crashed down. And everyone's assumption was that Nintendo was going to make a Wii HD, but they never did that. And it really infuriated people because that's basically what everyone wanted. People wanted to play Super Mario Sunshine in high definition on their television, but they never got that.
Oh, I'm really hoping we see a Sunshine port.
I am too. But hearing about all these past seasons for Nintendo when it comes to Christmas and any holiday season really for this that chunk of time, you can really tell that this is something that they've always struggled with, and even in cases where they've done incredibly well, like with the GameCube, it just didn't really.
I'm comparing these lists, like as I was going along, I was comparing these lists to what we do have so far without any other announcements that could be done in September or October. It's like, it's fine. Like, we're going to see Super Mario Party, Pokemon Let's Go, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and then a bunch of other games as well. It's like, it seems about the same as some of these other years.
There might be bundles for the Switch that come out. There's like a whole bunch of things that could be coming out, and including ideas of like free-to-play games and stuff like that can really push the Switch along. It's not that the Switch is doing bad right now, right? That's not happening.
We're just scared that if things are not released for it, then...
If Nintendo doesn't show any of their holiday lineup in the next couple of months, it's going to be like it didn't matter that they did. Because if they announce a game all of a sudden overnight and say it's coming out next month, the build for that is simply not there. You guys that are watching, everyone that's at home, all right? You're all game nerds. We're game nerds. We're geeks. This is what we do.
Speak for yourself, Shane.
If you're watching Rerez 2, it's mostly because you really like video games and you like the industry quite a bit. And that's what we are. We love Nintendo. We love Sony. We love Microsoft. We like talking about these video games and looking at these things. But the average consumer out there doesn't have that kind of bandwidth. So what's happening is they go to a store, they see a poster, they watch TV, they see an advertisement, they listen on the radio, they hear an advertisement. That's the kind of stuff that happens if anyone's even listening to the radio anymore or watching TV or seeing posters.
Do people play games?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're seeing ads online and stuff like that. And if you don't have that infrastructure there, if you don't have that build-up beforehand, average consumers are not made aware of these products. I have met a ton of people who weren't aware that certain games are coming out on the Switch because they simply didn't know about it. For instance, a big one that people just seem to not even know about was Labo. Because Labo came out really quick for people, right? And there's a lot of consumers out there that simply didn't know about it, and that's one of the reasons. Marketing is a really big impact on that. And you know, there's a lot of gamers out there who have YouTube channels that have produced content on that stuff, and you've seen people do Labo videos, but the problem was, I bet you didn't see a lot of them, right? You saw a couple, but you didn't see enough people talk about it, and that's a part of the marketing as well. They need to send these things out. They need to create a bigger expansion of things. So when they've announced a game a month or a couple months before it's supposed to come out, and people are just supposed to go for it, it doesn't always work. If it's a game like Zelda, everyone goes to it, right?
So this is kind of what we're aware of as far as like the cards that Nintendo showed us, but are they being honest? Do they have some things to show us in a couple of months? We'll just have to wait and see. We can't be definitive until we get to Christmas.
Yeah, we're still quite a few months out. Things can happen. So they can announce
take everything with a grain of salt. We're going to wait. We're going to stare deep into Shigeru Miyamoto's eyes and see if anything pops up in there.
Maybe Nintendo's
like another Smash symbol, or like a Zelda sword, Master Sword.
You know, realistically, Nintendo might just be waiting for a bunch of kids to go back to school in September, and at that point, they're going to hit with some big announcements so that they're all in one room talking to each other about these games, right? You never really know. There's a whole marketing is complex and strange and weird, and I used to work in that industry for a little bit, and let me tell you, no one exactly knows everything about marketing, and Nintendo definitely doesn't know everything, but they know a heck of a lot. So, with that being said, are you excited for the future of Nintendo? Do you believe they're going to be showing off a heck of a lot of games for the holiday season?
I don't know.
Let us know in the comments below.